You're listening to 87.1 Caroline Radio, KCGN Bakersfield, and Blind Advocate Radio. Welcome back, listener. How are you? I'm glad you're doing well, and I'm glad you had a good week. My name is Aaron Richmond, and you're listening to Aaron's Opinion. This evening, we're joined by someone who I've never spoken to before, but he's expressed a lot of interest in Aaron's opinion. And he's also expressed a lot of interest in educating people about a new, basically a new system in the New York City metro and transportation system that will be very, very beneficial to blind people. His name is Bryan Velazquez. You're on Aaron's Opinion. Go right ahead. What's going on?
Yes. Hello, listeners. Hello, everybody out in radio land and in podcast land. Hello there. Hope everybody's doing well, staying safe. And we're going to get right into it right away to the good stuff, the good tea, as they always say. So, my name is Bryan Velazquez. I am 29 years old, and I currently reside in New York, New York. And I have been eagerly putting ideas together on working on a very special project to expand on my appearances in various news organizations in regards to transit and accessibility in the transit system. Now, my recent gig was with WNYC Radio. I don't know if anybody is familiar with NPR radio. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Aaron?
Well, of course, I'm familiar. NPR, National Public Radio.
That is correct, yes. So, well, before we get into that, a little bit about me.
Sure.
I have a degree in therapeutic recreation from St. Thomas Aquinas College in Sparkill, New York. And to date, I have worked at Coney Island Hospital, the New York Public Library, which I'm going to get into in a little bit because part of the story is going to be a twist. And I have also done opening monologues for the Big Apple Circus, throwing that fun fact out there. And what comes with that? What comes with that package is learning how to be as independent as possible and learning mobility skills and travel. Right? So, with that being said, I would like to start a project. Why this project? Well, you know, in my reports with accessibility, okay, I have expressed many ideas and many phrases that will help parents of children who are visually impaired to calm their fears and to let them know that there is many resources out there, okay? For example, Fox 5 News had a very special report at a station called Metrotech Center in Brooklyn. So Metrotech Center in Brooklyn, which is one of the train stations in New York, had a very special lab, accessible tech lab. They had a tactile map. They had an audio map, which has tactile, and you press down on the map, and the map would tell you where you are, whether it's the L train, whether it's the R train, which I'm going to get into in a little bit about the trains and how the trains work in the city of New York. But besides that, I was interviewed, and one of the biggest ideas that I expressed was this. These accessible tools will be so beneficial for students and clients of various organizations that are a traveler in training. What is a traveler in training? A traveler in training is a person who is learning the ropes of traveling for the first time, whether it's to find, the right platform for the train, whether it's to find the edge of the track and find the bumps, making sure not to fall into the tracks, whether it's screwing off and walking a straight line in the train station, whether it's practicing listening to different sounds and masking noise, and how to, you know, outside the train station, crossing a street, or vice versa. You know, these tools will be perfect for people with who are travelers in training, right? So to tie it all into this project, you know, parents need to see that. Parents need to be exposed to that for those children, to make them feel fine, make them feel confident that their child's going to go out there and be the most productive and have the best life possible in society. So now what comes with all this and travel and accessible apps for the visually impaired and accessible maps and all that stuff? Technology. Technology is very important in this process. So it is very important for your child at an early age to start mobility and technology, especially in this day and age.
Without doubt, you're 100% correct. Yeah, I'm really loving I'm really loving what I'm hearing here. This is really really good. So why don't you go into further details? I will. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. If you have not had a chance to listen to Aaron's opinion, that's fine. I
Okay,
have been podcasting for a while now. About at the end of August will be about a year. And
cool.
I started Aaron's opinion because I felt that there were simply not enough strong podcasts for blind people
Hmm.
where we could easily access a podcast that was accessible, meaning where someone like you could create a post and then basically ask to come onto my show and have a conversation.
Correct.
And I have felt that this is a huge, huge gap in the podcasting and radio world, is that there are just not enough, not enough opportunities.
Right.
And and what I mean by opportunity, well, not enough opportunities for podcasters. So I'm very fortunate to have this show, but most importantly, there's generally not enough opportunities for guests. It can be very competitive to get into podcasts, even as a guest. You
Oh yeah.
noticed I didn't really interview you. Actually, I mean I we talked a little bit. I had to make sure that you had something, that you were serious, and that you had serious content to give us, and you clearly do. But a lot of these podcasts, many of them are simply not open to just letting someone walk in the door, and I think that really is quite is can be a lot of people are excluded from telling their stories,
Right.
doing the interesting work that you do because of the nature of this barrier to entry. I've been negatively affected in my life plenty of times simply by barriers of entry. I'm never going to allow that happen to someone else, and I'm certainly not going to
Correct.
allow it on my own podcast if I can help it. So
Hmm.
basically, I mean, my background is academically, it's in the field of international relations.
Right.
After I graduated, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm thank you for reading my bio. If you did that, I appreciate that. If you
Oh
researched,
no, 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 no! I did
oh,
not. I didn't get to read it, but
oh, okay. Okay. Well then please let me tell you. Please let me lead into it. So, yeah, and then after I graduated from a university with international relations, I got into teaching. I've been teaching English as a second language online for 5 years at Company X, I call it.
hmm.
For personal reasons, I live in an undisclosed location. That's a totally different long story. And I basically started this podcast to give people the chance to come on and tell different interesting stories. So
Cool.
you said that, and the radio thing that I said at the beginning, that was luck. Someone in the group gave me the gift of an opportunity to have a radio show on his station, where this podcast is
Cool.
aired out on that station, and then it's a podcast, it's a YouTube, it's an everything all at once. So this
Question for you.
Yes,
This is edited, correct? All this is
yeah,
going to be edited?
yes.
Okay, good.
Um, why have I already said something that you don't like that we need to go back and erase already? Really?
Oh, no, no, no. Just making sure since we're talking and, since we're speaking a lot.
Right,
So I just
right.
want to
Yes,
make sure,
yes, 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 yes. It's put through a lot of different editing software. It's very interesting and it's very
okay,
time consuming for the
okay,
person who does it. So you wanted to talk more in depth about the train system. I'm not from New York, so educate me about it and educate our listeners who are not New Yorkers. Tell us all about the train system and the transportation system of that city. It's quite
okay,
spectacular to say the very least. I'll mute my
okay,
microphone for a while. Go ahead.
okay. So before we get into the real juice of the story and the news reports and how I got into the news reports and how I did the news reports and what happened, let's talk about the train system. So you have mass transit system in New York City, the biggest mass transit system. Um, so you have the letter trains, the number trains. So the number trains you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The letter trains you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, J, L, M, N, R, Q, W. So
So what are
how do these
those?
trains?
So what are those? So I have a suspicion because I've been to New York twice. I want you to explain it. I think I know what those letters and numbers might mean, but people who've never been to New York would want to know what do those letters and numbers mean. That's critically important.
Good question. So the numbers are associated with different boroughs. So the 1 runs strictly in Manhattan. So the rest of the numbers, the 2 is Manhattan, Bronx, and Brooklyn. The 3, Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn. 4 and 5 are the same route, and the 6 as well. So the A, B, C, E goes to Queens. The A, B, and C are also Brooklyn. Most of these trains are associated with the different boroughs. So you would know, everybody would follow the trains and follow the layout. Now, their significance, uh, it's complicated.
Okay. Does it have anything to do with the grid of New York City? How the city is gridded?
Oh, I hope this is not put on the podcast. No.
Okay. That's what I would have thought. If there's numbers in a city, it usually relates to a navigational grid.
I
So
was
that's
not
what.
expecting this question.
Well, there you. Well, good. Well, okay. So that can be. So sorry for that, but that can be more material for you to be able to tell people if someone asks. I've been to New York and I understand a grid system. So probably it has something to do with the grid of the city, or at least some sort of a navigational issue. Or probably at very least, it relates back to a way for the offices that manage the transportation system in New York to maintain and monitor all of the trains all at once.
Right.
Okay. So, you mentioned before that you also got into these, as you say, news broadcasts. Uh,
Correct.
so, what? Talk about that in a lot more detail.
Okay. So I was chosen for 2 news reports. One was with Fox 5 and one was with NPR radio, aka WNYC